It's time to start working smarter, not harder. There's a popular myth I'm going to debunk for you, and why no matter what you do, you fall back into old patterns. In order to create the outcomes you seek, it's time to create internal systems rather than setting goals. Why do 92% of people who set goals fail? Because they lack the internal system. So today I'm going to break down for you how to create the internal systems so that the goals, desired outcomes you seek in your health, finances, relationships, or business become inevitable. Your goals are an automatic byproduct based on who you are being. So let's get into it. What I really want to break down for you is the mechanics of reality creation. Getting what you want is not magic. And when you understand the internal operating system that is driving your behaviors, getting wanted results become automatic. So let's start there. Think of the idea of a thermostat. You have a thermostat, and your thermostat is known as your identity. But let's say your internal thermostat is set at 75 degrees. This is your identity. And your identity is who you believe you are, what's possible. It is also your dominant thoughts, your emotional baseline, and your habits. And these three things are what creating every result in your life. So these three create your outcomes. Literally, that's it. That's the internal system. So if your internal system, if your set point doesn't change, meaning the identity that you are operating from, your dominant thoughts, your emotional baseline, and your habits don't change, neither do your outcomes. Now, here's why 92% of people fail. Let's think New Year resolutions. People have these big, hairy, audacious goals to lose weight or make more money or grow their business or whatever it may be for you, but everything is focused down here at the habit level. Get up at 5 a.m., have a 20-step morning routine, repeat affirmations 100 times a day, which is BS. It's a belief system, and it's exactly what's keeping you stuck because it's surface level. We're not changing the thermostat. You're just trying to change at the habit level, which is downstream from identity. So really it comes down to these two. But back to this thermostat identity. If your current set point, the dollars in your bank account, the health, your outcomes are set at 75 degrees. Anytime things get, quote, better, let's say warmer, let's say it jumps up to 80 degrees. You just had new money come in, or you met somebody that you're interested in. You will unconsciously sabotage to bring it back to the known. Because even though it's better, it is not familiar with your current set point. Now you're doing this unconsciously, but it also happens in the reverse. Let's say your thermostat or things get colder or worse. Let's say it jumps down to 70 degrees. You gained 5 pounds or you had an unknown expense come in, so you'll do whatever you have to do to bring it back to your set point. So what's the key here? You have to raise your identity or your set point to a different degree, a different OS operating system, so that what you want becomes normal. So now let me break down for you how you get to the root cause, which is identity, and how you upgrade your set point from 75 degrees to, let's say, 90 degrees or 100 degrees or whatever it is that you are seeking. It's, quote, better than where you're currently at. But rather than getting down here at the habit level, which is only surface and will not sustain you, which is why people self-sabotage or fall back, or it's because you're relying on motivation or willpower. No, get to the root cause, create these internal systems so you can sustain the change you seek and get desired results. So how do you upgrade the identity? How do you upgrade your personal thermostat? This is exactly what I coach my clients through, and I want to make this practical and easy for you to understand so you can literally start applying this to your life today. Now that you understand, identity comes down to those three things: who you're currently being, which is producing every result, are your thoughts, your emotional states, and your habits. These three create your results. So the easiest way to do this is just to simply reverse engineer. And I always like to highlight the emotional states you're living from. Think of your emotions as your check engine light, because it's your emotional states that are driving your habits and behaviors. So if you don't like your current outcomes, your current results in any area of life, we have to backtrack it and see who we're operating as. So let's say, for example, you start naming some emotional states you find yourself in. Stress, frustration, that's a mess. Impatience, self-doubt is a big one for people. Lacking clarity, just kind of drifting through life. If these are the emotional states you're living from, that thermostat at 75 degrees, you can only create results that are a reflection of who you are being. So of course you're going to have unwanted results because this is who you are operating as. So first thing I want you to do, before we go any further, I want you to get really clear on some desired results you have. I find that most people lack clarity. If you don't know where you're going, you can only continue to recreate more of what is. So what happens for most people is you are so focused on your current results. You're so focused on the dollars in your bank account or lack of. You're so focused on feeling unhappy or stressed out or nothing ever works out for me. So what happens, again, unconsciously, is you just keep looping the same thoughts and emotions, doing the same habits, getting the same results. It's literally insanity. And what's the saying behind that? You can't keep thinking and doing the same thing over and over expecting new results. So get really clear right now. I just want you to think of one area of life in which you are seeking change. Maybe it's dollars in your bank account, so money. Maybe it's relationships, love. Maybe it's business, success, happiness, confidence. Is it to lose weight, grow your business, whatever it is. Get really clear on something you want. So here's where the internal systems come into play. Once you get clear on what you want, again, we're reverse engineering this so you understand the mechanics or your internal systems. Getting really clear on the end result. What is it that you want? And now you have to step into a state of being. Who would I have to be for this to be a natural outcome based on my thoughts, emotions, and habits? If you want to fast track where you are to create desired results and get out of your own way, this is exactly what I coach my clients through. You can learn more and apply by clicking on the link below in the description box or visiting my website, heatherhakes.com. So once you get clear on what it is you want, here's where it really comes down to the internal system. Think of it as your OS, your operating system, kind of like your smartphone. There's nothing inherently good nor bad about your smartphone, but it's only as good as the apps installed. And how this works for you is your life is only as good as the beliefs you have of what's possible or available for you. Start paying attention to the stories you tell. If you believe nothing ever works out for you, money's hard to come by, there's no good men or women out there, that's possible for others but not for me, those dominant thoughts, of course, are going to keep you in disempowering emotional states, driving habits like being inconsistent or procrastinating. It's a no-brainer when you're observing it from the outside, but when you're in it, it's kind of hard to see anything different because you've repeated it over and over again. So once you get clear on what it is that you want, now we have to go to, okay, well, who would I have to be? What state and identity would I need to be operating from for this to be normal, for this to be familiar, for this to be an automatic byproduct for me? So We could do any of these. We could talk about money, love, relationships, but they all go together because they're all aspects of you. You don't get what you want in life. You get a reflection based on who you are being. So let's talk about, okay, what you're really seeking in all of these is the emotion or feeling it will give you. So what you're really seeking is abundance, connection, maybe it's fulfillment, happiness, security, safety. Figure out what you believe these things will give you. Now you have to become and be that first in identity, which let's break this down. So think about it like this. What I coach my clients through is creating version 2.0. Because this current version of you is producing unwanted results. You literally have to shift the identity that you're operating from. So in order to get these end results that you are seeking, who do you have to be? Number one, you have to have confidence. I know a lot of people, myself included, I struggled with a lot of self-doubt. So I can share with you in business what that looked like for me. When I was starting off in entrepreneurship, I was full of self-doubt, fear, worry. I was procrastinating and being inconsistent. So of course I didn't have clients. Of course I wasn't making any money. And I looked at this and I was like, I don't like my current results. Who would I have to be? I would have to be confident. I would have to have certainty. I would have to be consistent. A big one here is you have to become self-aware. You have to be able to notice your thoughts and emotions, the pattern that's running. So you have to be self-aware. You have to have what's known as EQ, emotional intelligence, because here's what happens for a lot of people and why you stay stuck. You allow your mood or emotions to dictate your behavior. If you wait to feel motivated, you're probably never going to take action. That's why you say, I'll start tomorrow, I'll start Monday, I'll start next week, except you never do. So you can't rely on emotions. When you come up and you get really clear on the identity you have to operate from, being consistent and taking action is just who you are. So confidence, certainty, consistent, self-aware, EQ. Of course, you have to have clarity. You have to know where you're going. So that's the first step, is think about this as like designing your blueprint. Number one, what you want, but number two, who you have to be. Okay, great. That's like the first two steps. So if becoming aware is the first step and creating clarity is the second, how do you become this version of you? Again, this is exactly what I coach my clients through, but let me share with you high level how you can get started today. Make sure you do this work. Seriously, sit down and take the time to get clear on what you want and the thoughts and emotions and habits you would have to have in order for these to be natural for you, automatic, inevitable. So let's get into the daily practice on how you put this into play. Through years of personal development and learning through ancient wisdom and psychology and neuroscience, I have created this 5-step method that gets down to the root cause, the subconscious level, in order to upgrade the identity you operate from so you naturally get the desired results. So let's break this down. I call it the 5R method. And the first step to creating change is you have to regulate your nervous system. Why? Most people are stuck in stress, fight or flight mentality. Some, you may find yourself in freeze, analysis paralysis, actually not taking action. But either way, your nervous system is dysregulated, and it doesn't matter how much effort you put into something. I had a call with a coaching client this week. He's like, okay, I'm just gonna push harder. And I was like, no, that's exactly what you don't need to be doing. Pushing harder, willpower is not going to give you the wanted results because you haven't gotten down to the identity level. So the first step is you have to regulate your nervous system to get out of this stressed state. Once you are regulated, now you have conscious control to start thinking and feeling in a new way. But let's talk about regulation. How do you do that? You can regulate through breath work, meditation, journaling, walking in nature, but what it really comes down to is presence. I prefer breath work and meditation. That's where you have to start. The second step, now that you have presence and the internal system is back online, you have conscious control to rewire, to start thinking and feeling new emotional states. So here's what's happening neurologically. You are conditioning the new identity. You are conditioning that new thermostat set point in this meditative state. It's theta brainwave state. So you're rewiring in theta. Why? Theta is self-hypnosis. This is when your analytical, logical mind is shut off. It's like the door to your subconscious mind is now open, and you can consciously choose to impress on your subconscious what you want to express in reality. Theta brainwave state, this is through meditation. Third, now it's about rehearsing. And in this theta brainwave state, you need to emotionally embody the end result that you will feel. Why? Your subconscious mind, the language of it is emotion. That's why thought alone isn't enough. That's why affirmations on their own will never get you to where you want to go, because emotions are the driver. So you need to be thinking, yes, the clear goal, what you want, but you need to be feeling the emotional state. This is not fake it till you make it. It's embodying it until you experience it. Again, this is conditioning and installing the new identity you choose to operate from. Number 4, this is where most people fail. You might have a great morning meditation. You might have a great practice, but then if you get triggered or thrown off in traffic or an email or something that happened throughout your day, now you default back to the old identity. So step number 4 is about reinforcing this new identity. And what that means is you want your behaviors, your habits to match your intentions, because now when you are behaving as it, you're starting to get new results, which is now feeding a new feedback loop. But this reinforcement throughout your day is everything. You can't act like this 10 minutes a day and for the next 16 hours default back to the old, because now the default old identity is going to win every time, which means you're going to stay stuck in these emotional states and not be getting wanted results. Step number 5, this is important. Daily reflection. Spend a few minutes each evening just reflecting on the day, asking, how did I do today? How did I show up? If you were triggered, how long did it take you to get back on track? If you fell into doubt or stress, okay, were you able to catch it, interrupt that loop, and then reinforce those thoughts and emotional states that you want to be living from? At first, this takes some effort because you have practiced thinking and feeling one way for years, if not decades. But just like building muscle at the gym, it takes repetition and consistency. Now, this is way more important to be consistent than to be intense with motivation or hustle and grind. Be consistent. That idea of 1% better every day. And now that you understand the mechanics and the internal systems, it's time to put this into play. So let's summarize this and your takeaway from today. The big thing is you have to become aware of where you're currently at and the results you don't want. Then, despite your current circumstances, okay, well, what do you want? You need a clear aim. And then it comes down to these daily reps, the application and repetition of being this 2.0 identity. That's the internal system. This is the mechanics of getting the results you want. Again, most content out there is speaking at the habit level, which isn't getting to the root cause and isn't going to create sustainable change. When you start operating as and thinking and feeling confident and having certainty and conviction, and you are consistent, I promise you that getting wanted results become inevitable. Let me know what questions you have. Be sure to drop them down below. And make sure you subscribe to my channel so you're the first to know when new videos drop. Give me a thumbs up. I'll catch you on the next one.